It is summit time again, and every time we reach this point, I'm asking myself the very same question. Why the hell do we keep on doing this? Organizing the summit is a little bit like herding cats or dogs, maybe, or more accurately, like herding fleas in a sack, especially when you decide to curate content instead of just collecting names. So today, I want to take you one step back, not into the program, not only into the speakers list, though we will do a little bit of name dropping, but into the why. Why have we chosen inside the horse's mind? Why neurobiology and neurophysiology? And why do I believe that horse training needs to be thought from this biological origin and not from methods? This episode is not a promotion, it's a positioning. And I am welcoming you to a new episode of the Equidemia podcast. Here are my insights for you today. So let's debate a little bit why training is so often missing the point. And because this is where most discussions in the horse world are starting. And they are starting, in my opinion, on the wrong end. We talk about techniques, about methods, about tools. And if we're very lucky, we talk also about relaxation techniques and systems, and right and wrong ways to train. But all of these conversations are built on an assumption that is very rarely questioned. And that is that training is primarily a technical problem. And I don't believe that, or I don't believe that anymore, because before a horse responds, resists, cooperates, freezes, or explodes, something has already happened inside its nervous system. Training is not where behavior begins. Training is where behavior becomes visible, and that is a crucial change of perspective. If we only discuss what we see, we stay on the surface, and surface level thinking always leads to surface level solutions. Learning is much more biology than methodology. And that is very important that we can make this, that we can distinguish that. Learning is very often treated like a neutral process, stimulus in, response out. Repeat often enough, and the horse has learned. But has it really learned something? Or has it learned to avoid something? And that is a huge, huge difference. Because learning isn't neutral, also learning is biological. And it depends on the level of arousal, the emotional state. Maybe you remember the podcast series that we did about emotions. It's depending on stress physiology, sensory processing, and memory formations. And a horse does not learn despite its nervous system, it learns through it. And that changes really everything. Learning is biology. And if learning is biology, then fear, tension, shutdown, over-arousal are not pure training problems. Of course, they are if we're trying to train a lame horse to piaffe, but otherwise there's so much more going on, and then it is a pain that is shutting the horse down. There are so many states of the nervous system, and you cannot train your way out of a nervous system that is overwhelmed. You cannot discipline your way out of a brain that is in survival mode. So I think understanding isn't optional. It is a foundation of ethical training. And if we are bridging this a little bit and are zooming out into the bigger picture, then very few people are aware of that the process of domestication has already done something with the horse. If we are talking to a few people, they are always very heavy on comparing horses with wild horses, comparing domesticated horses with wild horses without being aware of that the brain looks a little different, that the brain development is a little different, that the social bond is different because we take foals away so early from their mothers, for example, because horses don't live in families anymore. We are forgetting things like that also through domestication, the body of the horse has changed. So of course, we can learn a lot from wild horses. And also during this summit, we will talk about wild horses and we will talk to people that are experts in wild horses. But we cannot just translate that one-on-one. We need to zoom in sometimes, and then we need to zoom out again and say, okay, if this is what a wild horse is doing, can I really translate that one-on-one onto a domesticated horse? And we are nowadays very, 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 very busy with building all these track system. And don't get me wrong, if you're listening to this podcast for a while, you might have found out that I am a big fan of keeping horses close to nature. But we also have to see that our domesticated horses their body is in a different state. And the horses that we are breeding nowadays, they would never survive in nature. I mean, let's face it. So is that really our goal, or do we need to do certain adaptations? Or do we need to change our breeding? Maybe that would be the better idea even. But we need to understand this context, and we need to understand that emotion is not the opposite of reason, not the opposite of reasoning. We need to understand the domestication process, and we need to understand also that emotions are not noise in the system, kind of, but that emotion is the system. Neurobiology is explaining us that very, very beautiful. It determines what is noticed, what is ignored, what is remembered, what is avoided. Calm, regulated nervous system is learning totally differently than a stressed or hypervigilant one. So when we talk about behavior problems, we are often talking about emotional states that we failed to recognize before, and also the context. Yeah, we are trying to expose a domesticated horse to a stress level that a rural horse can manage. I mean, have you seen them fighting? Have you seen horses fighting in the wild? I think there is Google horse and alligator on YouTube. There are some really cool videos out there where you can see a mare attacking an alligator because it is protecting its herd. It's protecting its foals. Yeah, very normal. They're not scared at all. And still, we are handling horses that are getting totally freaked out when a leaf is falling or a door is closing. You think that is normal? That is totally not normal. But why is it like this? How could a horse become from totally brave and attacking the alligator to freaking out when the leaf is falling off the tree? So, and this is exactly my point. We are simply not taught to look there. We don't learn context. We learn these superficial solutions and putting a plaster on it. So, in my perspective, just looking at behavior is the wrong starting point. Behavior is the final output of multiple internal processes. And when we start with behavior, we are already pretty late. By the time that a horse is showing resistance, avoidance, aggression, the nervous system has already been adapting for a long time. And then, the worry cup is full, it flips out. Inside the horse's mind means starting before behavior and seeing all those contents where I have been giving you a little insight now. And that is also the reason why I am so keen on curating the program step by step, and why we do think about why we also have scientific advisors giving us ideas about whom to invite to the summit, not only scientists, but also practitioners. And you can invite many speakers, and so often we are getting presented also so many opinions, but without a narrative in it, nothing is connecting. Inside the horse's mind is curated because content matters, context matters, and coherence matters, responsibility matters. I'm not creating a marketing event. I am creating a learning space, one that connects neurobiology, learning theory, emotion, training practice, therapy options, not a separate topic, but just as part of this one same system. This is something that matters for all horse people. You don't need to be a trainer. You don't need to be a professional. If you interact with horses, you influence nervous systems. Every handling decision, every training session, every expectation placed on a horse has biological consequences. Even the way you are breeding has biological consequences. How you're housing the horse has biological consequences. Understanding this doesn't make things more complicated. It makes them more honest, and in the end, so much easier. Because if we would, for example, decide to allow horses to be a little bit longer with their family, or keep them in family herds, in family groups, we maybe have horses that are not so overstimulated that they are freaking out when a leaf is falling off the tree, or when they're hearing a noise in front of the riding arena. Wouldn't that be beautiful? So you're starting to ask different questions, and then you can also make different decisions. And then your relationship with the horse changes. Not because you try harder and you are micromanaging more, but simply because you understand and you can take good decisions. So what will happen during the summit? So during the summit, we have again from the 19th to the 22nd of March, we have 4 days full of learning. On day 1, we will have a look at this domestication process and biology. We'll have a look at breeding and what happens out there in nature, but also what happens inside. Day 2, we are looking at perception and learning. On day 3, we are looking at emotion and personality. And on day 4, we look at therapy and social behavior. And we have many, many highlights during the summit. Many. We have fantastic practitioners. We also have fantastic scientists like Andrew McLean and Frauke Musial and Kate Farmer and Crispin Parelius. And we also have Ben Branderup coming. We have lectures like rethinking a common conundrum. Is it pain or is it behavior? We are talking about emotional states and training. We are talking about stress and stress regulation. We are talking about the neurophysiology of posture. We are talking, Lucy Rees talks about cognitive and emotional development in feral and domestic horses. We will talk about the neurophysiology of movement, and so on. Yeah, we will talk about how horses are grieving and why that matters. And I'm really looking forward to all the insights that we are getting there. So you hear what I'm saying. Inside the horse's mind is just much more than a title. It's really this attempt to move horse training or horse understanding back to its origin, biology. Not ideology, not methods, not trends, not Instagram influencers, but biology. We want to change the perspective. We want to train responsibility. And for that, we simply need to understand the horse. If we want to have an easy life with horses, we need to understand them so we can meet on eye level. And that is why the summit exists. And this is why we keep doing this, even when it feels like herding fleas. You can sign in now for the waiting list on our webpage, equidemia.com/summit 2026. You will find a formula where you can sign in your email address, and then you will get informed when the ticket sales is starting next week. But here we go. There's a sweet point in this. There's a sweet spot in this, because if you have signed in for the waiting list before the ticket sale is starting, then you can save yourself a 20% discount. Ta-da! And we just give that out before the ticket sale. So as a pre-sale event, kind of before the ticket sale is starting. So go out there, sign in. We always offer these 2 opportunities. We offer this VIP ticket for that you can use your discount for 189 euros. What is nothing for this event? But still, I know that this is a lot of money for some people. And also with my personal biography, I am the daughter of a single mother, and there was simply no money for most parts of my life. And that is why it is so important for me in this context to not hide knowledge behind a paywall. And I think that I mean, I have a company, I need to pay my bills, and also our effort needs to be rewarded somehow. So hence, we don't give it out for free, but against donations. So from €5 onwards, you can be part of the event on a flex ticket. And everybody who would like to have the recordings and would like to continue watching the event after it's over and after the live lectures are over, then you can invest into the VIP ticket. I think it's a pretty sweet deal and a no-brainer. So just go out there, talk to your friends, bring people, and learn something about the horse's mind. So I hope to see you on the summit. See you soon. Bye.